Okay, so let's start with the presentation. I'll share my presentations with you. Just a minute. Robotics. The terminology we may have already heard about multiple number of times. We already seen different kind of robots also, different kind of automated systems also, which are controlled by a machine, which is very intelligent, and that is a robot. How exactly these systems are created? Many things are there. Remember, robotics is a separate branch of study in computer engineering. We are having many different things to connect many different algorithms that robot follows, how artificial intelligence is embedded inside the robotics, how it make the smart decisions, how it perform a specific operation, how it control the thing, how it communicate, how it analyzes it. Many this kind of things are present, many different questions that you might be having in your mind. So this study will show you how exactly the operations are performed with the help of the respective robot. Okay, so let's continue with the robot. What exactly the robots are? Okay, so robot actually we think that a machine which is like the human being is a robot. Not exactly 100% true. It's like 100% just like human being is not a robot. It's a humanoid kind of robot. We call it as a robot, but it's a humanoid robot. It's one of the kind of the robot there. Robots are the artificial agents acting in real world environment. Anything, any operation which is automated, which is having the operation to perform or take the decisions of itself. Okay, it will take the decision of itself, and based on that you perform the operation with that machine, and that machine is called as the robot. Okay, so that robot can be of any kind. We can have a robot of a dog, we can have a robot of human being, we can have a robot of any other machines also. And with an intelligent smart city application deployed, that machine will be performing specific operation there. At the end of today's session, I will show you some categories of robot, means some application areas are there where robotics are used. Even in domestic life also, in day-to-day life also, very different kind of robots are present, and we are also using that particular robots. Okay, so what is the objective of using the robot? Robots are aimed to at manipulation of the objects by perceiving, picking, moving, modifying the physical properties of the object, destroying it or having the effect, thereby freeing manpower. Remember, freeing manpower from doing repetitive function without getting bored, distracted, or exhausted. Okay, so whatever operation that we do, see in our general day-to-day life also, you see that this person is a robot. Why call it as a robot? Because he's performing repetitive operation same times without making any changes. That's why it is called as robot. So when these repetitive operations are there, and which don't require the human being, we don't have to waste the energy of human being. So we'll be employing a robotic system, robotic machine in that, so that that operation will be controlled by a machine. Even today, many algorithm or many technologies like artificial intelligence, deep learning, machine learning are now getting enhanced. New researches are done, and by using that technology in the robot, we are making them smart. We are making them aware of taking a perfect and right decisions at right time. Okay, that is what we call as a robot. Now, what is robotic then? So robotic is a sub branch of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, very big scenario. So almost from last 60-70 years, artificial intelligence term is used for multiple number of time in the field of computer engineering. Basically, the involvement of computer engineering uh, there there from the point of robotics always. Key computer will help us to perform some operation. That's why the technologies are evolving, and that is what the rise of robotics are there today. It's a branch of AI, which is composed of electrical engineering. Okay, we require electricity to operate it, mechanical engineering, all the movements which are mechanical, and computer science for designing. Computer science. So obviously, it's a program. It is created a program. It is containing a sequential approach. It is containing a heuristic approach. Sequential approach, like you are given algorithm and accordingly perform. Heuristic approach means it will take different decisions at different position, different location, different conditions. That is heuristic approach. So this algorithmic things, software design part is taken from the computer science for designing construction application of the robots. So electrical, mechanical, computer, even electronics also, many robotic applications that are designed, they are designed with the help of the electronic component and controlled with the help of electronic equipment itself. That is what we call as a robotics. Now, what are the aspects that robotics contain? Robot have a mechanical construction, form or shape designed to accomplish a particular task. Obviously, robot is a hardware. Even we are having the software robots also. You might be knowing bot. It's a short name is given there, BOT. Bot. Robot short name is given bot. So bot is a software robot. Okay, which is not having any hardware construction. Okay, who's responding to you. Many software websites contain the automatic replying bots. So you type something there, it will automatically get reply. It's also one of the application of artificial intelligence. You might have learned that in your syllabus also. Just to that, the software robot is converted in the form of a hardware design, and that is done with the help of the mechanical assembly. Okay, it contains a form, shape designed to accomplish a particular task. Today, we are moving towards a generation that robot will do any kind of task now, but still today, till today, whatever number of robots created, they are actually created to perform a dedicated task. For that operation only, the robot operations are performed. They are having electrical component which power and control the machinery. Obviously, so electronic equipment or any hardware equipment today we need to empower with the help of electricity. So when electricity comes, we need to make use of very electrical component, electronics component also. With the help of that, many different kind of operation that robot can do of its own. Even power supply can also be given to it, and based on that power supply, DC power supply, so it will perform the operations like. And third is the some level of computer program that determines what, when, how the robot will do something. Okay, robot performs some kind of operation. So what exactly operation to do, when to do, and how to do, that's kind of things that will be programmed inside the robot. So if you want to create a program of the robots, you need to understand the aspects of artificial intelligence first, how artificial intelligence system actually working, and along with that some advanced artificial intelligence systems like you might have heard about machine learning. That's their heuristic approach is followed there, one of the area of artificial intelligence where previous experience will be used to perform the used to take the further decisions there. Even deep learning also, deep learning contains the uh, algorithmic representation of human brain in the form of a neural network, and with the help of that they take the decision. That's also one of the technology which is now added in the robotics, and now robots are made more and more smarter. Maybe after the gap of 30-40 years, we'll be having a perfect humanoid robot which will do equivalent task of human being because of connection of all of these technologies together. Now, when you compare the artificial intelligent agents, okay, or the program, whatever AI that you have learned till, that we will compare with the robots. So whether artificial intelligence is equal to robot or not, not exactly. Artificial intelligence branch is the robotics, and if you compare them, like AI programs usually operate in computer simulated world. Okay, all the program, just like a bot I have told, or many different automated programs are there. Like for example, uh, you might have seen the Google ads on different websites. So there are some algorithms which are running behind it that will show you the advertisements as per your interest. Okay, or the mails received in your mail box, they are categorized as spam or not spam. On what basis they categorize the spam or not spam? So there is an algorithm, AI algorithm is running behind it. Many such examples are there where these artificial intelligence programs are written, and they are making use of some smart decisions, okay, in that software. But in case of robot, they operate in the physical world. We make use of different hardware, just I told about it, a mechanical assembly, electronic, electrical assembly to perform the operation of the robotics. Now, in case of AI program, the input to AI program is a symbol and symbol and rules, symbols and rules. Okay, so based on that only the decision making is done. Let's take an example of a chess game. Okay, chess game that you play with the help of a computer program. So there already symbols and the rules are defined. Based on that symbols and rules, you operate or you play the game of chess. Okay, and in case of robotics, input is analog signal in the form of speech, waveforms, or images. Means input is given in the form like which is human understandable. Human understandable. What we understand is different, and what computer understand is different. Like for example, I can sense the temperature. I will identify that temperature of this room is 20 degrees centigrade, something 18 degree, 20 degrees centigrade. I can sense it. But how a computerized robot will know that? Okay. How computerized robot will know that? So we need to use some mechanism by which That kind of input will be given to the computer system in the form of speech waveforms or the image also. You can capture the image, video or audio or the general pictures that will be given as input to the robot applications. AI program need general purpose computer to operate on. General means whatever laptop I'm using or whatever laptop you're using. So that computer system, that particular hardware is sufficient to run the AI program. No special hardware are required. But in case of robot, so though it's a branch of artificial intelligence, it's specially created and specific separate hardware are required. So huge amount of hardware is there that is required to create. So after learning the robotic as a branch of computer science, you can know that how intelligent human body is, how many senses that we are having, how many kind of interaction that we do, how many operations that you perform at a time within a second, that you will also know. So separate branch robotics where the physical entities are embedded to form the perfect smart application out of it. Okay, that's what we can compare AI and the robotics. Check it out. Humanoid robots, and not only that, they'll get the electronic component also, which are remotely operated, and they are specifically performing that operation only, just like bomb diffusing robot. Okay, so you'll go there, will identify current situation, identify the bomb is present, know the algorithm to diffuse and come back. Or many different kind of such robots are present in, we might have seen that robots in many Bollywood movies also, Hollywood movies also. So it's part of the robotic. Does not always be a human being. It can be anything, any machine which is operated and which is having intelligent application to perform operation in order to minimize the human efforts. Okay. Now, what component the robot contains? What are the different things are there? We are going to see them. Most of them very as a part of this presentation also, like in detail how they works and what's the application of them. Like power supply. Robots are powered by the batteries, solar power, hydraulic and pneumatic power sources. And different things are there. Like some robots are having the batteries connected to them. Okay, so it should get charged after a small, after specific interval of time. Okay, and based on that they will get charged and will get operated. Or now today, it was not previously done. Now today many robotic applications are powered by the solar power systems, hydraulic power also, pneumatic powers also. It's part of mechanical assembly actually. Maybe you are not learning in syllabus. That's also required. That's also one of the way by which the power supplies can be given. Next is actuator. Actuator are performing the actions. Okay, just a minute. Wait a minute. Okay, let's continue. The second component is the actuator. Actuator, they actually perform the action. Any any kind of action is there that will be performed by the system or by the hardware component, that is called as actuator. They convert the energy into movement. Okay. So any kind of movement will be there. So in order to operate the actuator, some machines are required. It's also there in as a part of your syllabus. We'll talk about it. It's called as a servo motor control. How exactly servo motors are employed in the robot, that also we'll see. Actuators. Then the electrical motors, they are required for rotational movement, AC motors or the DC motors. Okay. So that motors will perform the operation of movement. Okay. Then pneumatic air muscles, they contract almost 40% when the air is sucked in them. So mechanical equipment with the help of that means See, if you want to perform some operation very high speed, you can check that robot can perform, but robot is actually very slowly performing the operation. Very slowly it perform the operations, and then whatever the time that we require to perform, that will get reduced. Okay, it should perform operation very fastly. So that case we require the pneumatic air muscles. Okay, where they're operated with the help of the air pressure, and that will be used to simulate the actual human in the form of a robot. Then muscle wires, they contract almost 4-5% when electric current is passed through them. Muscle wires can also be there. Even piezo motors, ultrasonic motors. Okay, base for industrial robot. Almost industrial robot means now today in all the industries, the operation or the manufacturing system which is there is powered by almost more than 80 to 90% by robot application. What is manufacturing then? For example, let's take an example of the automobile company. In automobile companies also, what they actually designs. Okay, so all they are powered by the electrical systems, even by the automation systems, where they are using piezo motors, they're using electronic motors, and many different kind of motors are there. Even the most important part of the robot component is a sensor. You might be knowing the IoT application, Internet of Things application. In IoT also, sensor plays very important role. They take the input. See, we as a part of the, if you compare the robot with the human application, so we are having input devices like we are having eyes, ears, okay, skin, or the nose, and the, okay, like all multiple different sensors. We have five sensors we are having. These are the five input devices. Now if I want that to be given to the robot, there robot should sense something. How robot will sense the temperature, how robot will sense the pressure, how it sense the weight. Okay, how all these senses will be controlled by the robot, will be identified by the robot. That is done with the help of a electronic component that is called as a sensor. They provide a knowledge for real-time information on the task environment. Robot are equipped with the vision sensor to be compute in depth the environment. Okay, and even they contain tactile sensor also, that imitate the mechanical properties of touch receptors of the human fingertips. Any kind of entity which is recognized by the human, a robot can also recognize. That is sensors. So multiple sensors are present. That also we will see step by step what sensors are present in robots and how they are getting operated by different mechanism present inside it. Okay, where we use the robots, what are the applications of it? Okay, so here I've given a summary, but in the second session, that is when robots in practice, there I will show you some case studies. Okay, so these robots are used at this area and what are the applications of it. So let's see some summary of the robotic applications here. Most of the time, today we use the robots in the industries. Now see, industries are now in the fourth generation, that is industry 4.0. If you have heard about it, let me clear that point. Industry 4.0 means industry's fourth version is now there in it. When industrial revolution started in 18th century in Europe, okay, they were using the mechanical instrument to perform to create that particular factory. Mechanical instruments were there. Okay, so invention was on high on rise in Europe in that particular period. So industrialization has formed. Industries for first version. Now industry's second version is powered by electrical energy in 19th century, when electrical power or electricity was invented. Electrical power is now getting used in multiple different countries. So again, it was empowered by electricity, and the speed of industrialization has increased after that, when invention of electricity was done. Now, in the third generation, Industry 3.0, they are powered by computer system and electronic components. In third generation, in 20th century, okay, uh, computer, digital computer was invented, and uh, electronic component also like ICs or VLSI systems, they were used, so that electronic components were added, and now speed of industrialization also getting increased. And now we are in the fourth generation, where we are moving towards almost 100% automation in the industries. As I told, 80 to 90 years there, some industries may be there which are automated, which are operated by 100% automation there with the help of the robot applications today. So today, Industry 4.0 is now getting added with the technologies of 4.0 and with the robotic applications. Robots are used for many operation industries like material handling, cutting, welding, color coating, drilling, polishing. Just go to YouTube and check how something is manufactured. Might be knowing some web series, not web series actually, some series are there from National Geographic or Discoveries. You just go there and check it. How it is produced or how this is manufactured, how they have built that particular thing. So all everywhere the robotic applications are now used, and industries are now powered by many applications with the help of robotics. Military application, lot many military applications are there. Autonomous robots can reach inaccessible and hazardous zone during war. Okay, it has happened multiple times in India also. It is used for that particular purposes. Now today we are having drones, and drones are one of the application of robotics again. Okay, a robot named as Daksh, okay, so which is developed by DRDO, Defense Research and Development Organization of India, is in function to destroy the life-threatening objects safely. Okay, that's what this application I will show you in the uh, military application when we see as a case study in the second session. Okay, military application, many military applications are there which are used now in medicine also. Robots are capable of carrying out hundreds of clinical tests simultaneously, rehabilitating permanently disabled people also. Robot will help them, or they will perform surgeries also, even like brain tumors also. Okay, you might have seen the movie Robot. In that also some kind of thing that you have seen. Okay, so medicine is also having a wide variety of application from the robotic point of view. Exploration, the robot rock climbers. Okay, space exploration also. Now in space itself, when exploration of space is concerned, now there completely robots are there. Now today very less number of human beings are actually travel in space. Now many spacecrafts which are launched on different asteroids or on different planets or in the space itself, so they are having a robot present in that. That robot perform operation of collecting information and sending signals to the scientists which are operating them on Earth. Okay. Or they are used for the ocean exploration also. Underwater drone can be used for ocean exploration, and many such applications are present in the exploration area. Then entertainment. And Disney engineers have created hundreds of robots for movie making. Okay, in entertainment sector also now specialized robots are now available. You might be heard about the Pixar also using many different kind of robot for creating the animations or animated characters. So in industry sectors also robotics having strong applications here now. Yeah, so this is what the concept of robots are. Now let's go for the path planning of a point robot. Point robot means which is actually identifying something, like just take an example here, the diagram which is shown over here. Okay, so in this diagram, here we are having a source and destination. Okay, 1 and 2. Source is here, destination is here, and now the robot has to carry a particular path to reach its destination. So on 1 it will start traveling here, and will reach to the particular destination here. Okay, it's not like humanoid robot, but any kind of robot is present there. So as a part of artificial intelligence, it has to recognize the perfect path, even the shortest path also. You might have heard about some algorithm for shortest path. Exactly same algorithm is used here also to follow the respective path there. Okay, so that way the obstacle identification is done. Here we are having some obstacles present. Here also obstacle is there. It should not. Okay, it should identify the obstacles present there, and based on that, will identify the further path. Okay, to reach at the destination there. So here it is shown how they are following it. They are not randomly following the path. They actually having a sequence in that, and points are identified where they have to make a turn. Okay, where they have to make a turn. They are not actually curvish path there that follows. Very rarely the algorithm which are used in the path following robots, they are curvish, but generally they follow straight path. Like for example, here I have given the points. So this from here it has to travel over here. So they will follow the path something like from 1 to here on this point. Okay, from this point to this point, again from this point to this point, and this point to this point, like that. Or if you are modifying it, we'll be applying some algorithm like Dijkstra. Okay, you might have heard about Dijkstra's shortest path algorithm. Okay, that is also chosen to perform operations with that. But this point should be identified. The point. Okay, so that's what is called the point robots. So it will divide your path in multiple different small parts that we call a divide and conquer method. Okay, divides it, and then it will start following short path, first shortest, then second shortest, then second, next, and will reach to the destination. Okay, so this is what the path planning is there. So for path planning for a point robot, they are having many different algorithms. Okay, many technical step by step algorithms are there. Okay, we'll not go in completely detail, but let's see how exactly the operations are done here. See this, we have to follow the path, like just like this one, S to G. Okay, the robot has to travel from the S point toward the G point. So see the free path which is given here. Free space means nothing is present there completely, and these are the obstacles only which are shown in the light blue color. They are the obstacle. Maybe some mountains are there, or maybe some things are kept over there. So these are the obstacles that it contains. Okay, so we have to we just have to ignore that obstacles, and after that the path following should be done. Okay, so we'll start from S again, as we have explained about the point. Okay, so in which particular point, so they will have a straight line, and in that straight line no obstacle is present. Generally what we basically do, if your general human being is there, will directly travel like this in the curvish fashion. In this way we'll go from that, and in this way we'll travel here. But point identification is very important to know that, because the path generation algorithm will check for that obstacles in the fields, and the shortest path is identified with the help of the points which are mentioned over there. So we'll start from S, we'll follow the first point here, then next like that. Now let's see one more, which is which we have the obstacles, which another path we can follow. See the previous path which contains how many points are present here. We start from S. Okay, point number one, number two, three, four, five, and on sixth step we'll reach to the respective destination G there. Okay, where we are following a free path means no obstacle is present, completely 0% obstacles, and then in this way the destination will be identified by the robot. Now, semi-free path. For this case, see, my source and destinations are same, but the path is something different. Semi-free means it is just following the obstacles boundary also. Check it out here perfectly. On this boundary, it is following. So one here, one, two, and three. Within three steps, it has reached to destination. Means no complete turns are present there. This also can be applied and can be used by a point robot to reach to its final destination here. That is called as a semi-free path that a robot can follow, where the time required may be less, but obstacle may also reduce the time, because we are just following the boundaries of obstacle, that may also sorry, increase the time to reach toward the destination. Okay, now what type of path constraints are present in it? Means when you have to follow the path, either we are having a free path or the semi free path. So different kind of constraints are present when the look when that particular robot follows the path. Yes, generally why the thing I've just mentioned over here. Whenever a robot is not static, a robot is something like it's moving there. So when it has to move, it has to reach to the destination, it has to follow a specific path, follow the specific path, and that path identification is done by the respective algorithms here. Okay, so every time it will be moving, and we'll have the idea how do I check the respective path. So robot is containing some ultrasonic sensors in it. So by using ultrasonic sensors, they will identify at what particular position or point we are having obstacle and where the obstacle is not present. Okay, you might have heard about ultrasonic sensors in IoT. So they are used to check something is present in front of it, just like the path the bat follows. Okay, they are having ultrasonic sensors there. Just like that, robot can have ultrasonic sensors, and they will check the obstacle is present. And if it is present, but it is what location, at what particular distance it is present, that can be identified. So three different constraints are there which are considered by following the path. First is the local constraint, which lie in the free space. Second is a differential constraint, which are having the bounded curvature. Okay. And third is the global constraint, which is having a minimal length. Remember, this concept, this topic are very detailed. They will take many hours to finish, but I'm just summarizing it because we are not having much time to perform that. So let's have a summary how exactly the local, differential, and global constraint perform the operations. Now, motion planning framework. Motion planning means the robot will move in the forward direction or in a particular direction. Okay, forward direction is okay, but if you consider it, maybe not perfect 90-degree or 40-degree or something, we'll go on that. So a motion planning framework is required. So when the robot is moving, what is the ideal motion for that? So we'll be using a continuous representation, discretization. Discretization is a method by which you convert the continuous value in the discrete values. Discrete means we are having, for example, analog to digital, you might be knowing, but not exactly 100% like that. But in that way, a discretization is done. And then we'll be making use of some algorithm for graph searching, like A star algorithm, you might be knowing. It's a common algorithm which is used in artificial intelligence. If you have heard or learned about it, same algorithm can be used. Or based first search, BFS, or blind search. Okay, that algorithm can also be used here to do that. Now, the path planning approaches which are now followed in the robotic path planning. So first, path planning is a roadmap. Second is the cell decomposition, and third is the potential field planning. So how to plan the path for the moving a robot? So in that, these three ways or three mechanisms are used. In that, in roadmap, it represents the connectivity of free space by a network of 1D curves. 1D, just like in the previous case that we have seen. We'll go in detail about the roadmap also. Second is the cell decomposition. In cell decomposition, we decompose the free space into small, simple cells and represent the connectivity of free space by the adjacency graph of this cell. Adjacency graph, if you know the Dijkstra's algorithm, so there also adjacency graph is there. Exactly same way, adjacency graph is created in cell decomposition, and then the path is followed. And the last is potential field. In potential field, it defines a function over a free space that has a global minimum at the goal configuration and follow the steepest descent. Remember, that is what is important. Why steepest descent is needed? Because where the speed of moving will be more. That's why steepest descent will be taken in the potential field. Let's go practically how they perform operation. Let's go with the first method, which is followed to uh, have a path for the robot, that is roadmap method. Okay, in the roadmap method, check the example given here. It was introduced by the Shaki project in SRI International in the 1960s. It can put a shortest path in 2D configuration space. Okay, can check this one. S is the source and G is the destination in this, and just follow the path. So you can check the ideal path is followed here. Ideal path. So obstacles. Okay, you can check that wherever the obstacles are there, they are connected by the lines directly, and out of all the lines, which is the perfect line, which line they have used, they can use that are identified here. You can uh, mostly check the again the algorithm of shortest path identification that will be used over here. So it has to reach from S to G. So what is the shortest path to follow, where the algorithm for shortest path will be identified, and that will be taken in consideration by using the roadmap method here. See here also these lines are connected from this point. This point is also connected. This point is connected to every other point which is accessible here. Okay. And this point also connected to every other point which is accessible here. Accessible means it is in the range of it. If you want to connect this to here, it is not possible because it will cross the obstacle. Fine. Or this point you have to connect to this, directly not possible because it to cross the obstacle. So obstacle crossing is not there, except that all other points are connected, and with the help of again Dijkstra's shortest path algorithm, the path is followed here in the roadmap method. Now, what is the complexity? So again, inside that, many different small modifications of the algorithms are done. In that, the simple algorithm contains the complexity, might be knowing in data structure complexity. So complexity of the simple algorithm is O of n raised to 3. It is raised to 3 actually, 3 given there, but it's n raised to 3, n cube. Okay. Rotational sweep. Rotational sweep kind of algorithm contains n to n square, actually it's also square there, n square log n. And optimal algorithm contains O of n square only. And there's one more identification, that is what we call a space complexity. It also contains O of n square. Okay, it's a complexity that this algorithm contains present over here. Now, let's see the rotational sweep. Rotational sweep is just like that. They identifies the path to cross, or to have the to check that where it is possible to cross the obstacle, where it's possible to cross the obstacle. You can check this one. Different methods like rotational, like for example, I am present over here and I have to cross this obstacle. So it will start from 0 degree till end of the obstacle present there. Or you can consider 90 degrees present over here. You start searching from first here, then next, and by that we can check we will get an exact idea of obstacle present in front of it, exact idea of the obstacle present there. So here, check this where they are crossing that or not, on where actually the obstacles are present that can be found. So here the ultrasonic sensors, distance sensors are used to check the obstacle present in front of it. Start searching. Robot will move that sensors and will check from this angle here. Like, for example, in first case, you can just check this is not obstacle present over here. Directly, it will go from this direction and here it will move. Or in second case, here, if the rotation sweep is something like that, here it will check the obstacle is present. You can directly reach the destination, but the obstacle is present in between. So this path is not considered. In this case also, here also will have. So this path also we can follow, but from this again you have to take another point out of it. For this case also, for example, it can also cross the obstacle, but obstacle is present here. So this path following is not perfect. If you check this and if you extend this one, it will something like that. So it's also not correct. So rotational sweep just used to check where the obstacles are present and what's the distance of obstacle from the current location. That identification is done by the rotational sweep methods. And you can see the rotational sweeps complexity is O square log n. Okay. The now this is what we have, the first method, roadmap. Second is the cell decomposition method. Okay, so this is the second class of this particular method is present. Cell decomposition. Now, how exactly cell decomposition will be helping to find the path? So exact cell decomposition is done. Cell means individual area, that's called as a cell. The free space F is represented by a collection of non-overlapping cells whose union is exactly F, where we are using a small decomposition method. So inside the free space, we'll be dividing into multiple different part, small cell union. Okay, whose union is exactly F. Union means if we combine all of them together and remove the redundancies, so it will become F there. That is what union is called. And we are making use of one method called as trapezoidal decomposition. With the help of trapezoidal decomposition, we will follow the path, or robot will follow the path to reach its final destination. Let's see how it is done. See, trapezoidal decomposition. So let's see this. Now we are sources over here and destination is here. Okay, and this is your complete area which is now present in the current project, current scenario. Okay, now we'll decompose in the form of the cell. Now see how to decompose. The first line, first cell, the second cell, third, fourth, then fifth. So they're actually following these angles: 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So 15 cells are created. Check this. Fine. 15 different cells are created over here. So this is what we call decomposition. Okay. Decomposition of the available space is done by this particular method. And after that, we will follow the paths. So it will check the possibilities where we can move, where we can, how we can go ahead with this particular obstacle. You can check this out, just present over here in this diagram. So first step, second step, this third step. Okay, here your source, again destination, and what are the possibilities present that we will travel through. So either we can have from here to here, here one more point, here is one more point, like these points are taken randomly and they are not over the obstacle. Okay, in this way, but they are, this is one of the point present inside the cell. Okay, one of the point present inside the cell. So whatever the cells that we are having, exact one point is present inside the cell. See, so in this cell or this, check every particular point, every individual cell is containing one individual point present over there. Okay, and they are connected to each other. Okay, they are connected to each other. Now after this, how to follow the path? So using the same case, again, connectivity of the cell will be taken and using again shortest path algorithm will proceed further. Check this. So yes, sweep or nothing is there. Cells are decomposed, okay, and then exact individual point is identified within it, and using that point identification, the robot will follow the path. Again, using shortest path algorithmic method, the path will be followed from the source toward the destination. So check this out. From here, okay, here last. From here we'll go to travel this. Here the blue path which is shown here, that will be followed, which is the shortest path to reach to the destination in this way. Okay. This is called a trapezoidal decomposition. Again, remember, some statistical methods are there. Some mathematical formulas are also there, which are used here in the trapezoidal decomposition. With the help of that, the point identification is done. But this is a general core idea, basic idea, how trapezoidal decomposition or the decomposition method actually applied on the robots to follow their paths. So in this way, trapezoidal decomposition will work. Okay, in that, in decomposition method itself, we are having octree decomposition also. Octree decomposition. Octree means 8 parts are created there. Just check it out. For example, we are having a complete cube present. Out of that, in this particular cube, we are having 8 cubes present. Okay, 4 here and 4 here. That's what is called an octree. 8 cubes are there. Just can check the names presented here. One, two, three, four. These four are present. This is fifth. This is sixth. This is seventh. And at the back of this is eight. Okay, 8 cells are present. And now to follow the path. So this octree representation is converted in the tree format. For example, I have to reach over here. So from the top level tree, top the root node of the respective tree is considered over there. I want to go through the respective path. You can check it out. So this is just taken this, for example, it's converted into 8 parts here. Okay, this 8 parts, and inside this eight, which is the next one. For example, consider that in this complete cell, we have to reach to this. So first of all, we identified this part. Okay, 8 parts are there. Out of eight, this cell is considered, this one. Now inside that, we have considered another cell like this cell. Okay, again inside that, which cell is there? This cell. Okay, so basically, if you're knowing the BST, okay, binary search tree, almost in the same way, the traveling of it and identification of the path is done in the octree decomposition method here. Okay, you can see decomposed cell in 8 parts. Again, in that which is identified here. Again, in that which identified, that we will go. For example, this, like that. Okay, so this way we'll follow the path in the octree decomposition. It is actually a very detailed algorithm is there. Almost 82 different steps are required to write this octree decomposition method. But actually it is complex, right, in terms of the algorithm. But if you consider the general purpose complexity in terms of time, it is better than the roadmap kind of algorithms. Okay, and the third one is potential field methods. Potential field method. This approach was initially proposed by the real-time collision avoidance algorithm. Real-time collision avoidance algorithm by Khatib, and hundreds of papers are now published on that particular area. Potential field algorithm. Potential field algorithm is actually used by the robot, and just similar to the counter sweep, will perform the operations on it. Okay, so check that where we are having the path present or not. So just sweeping that, and it will start generating, it start moving forward. It will not first point, it will start moving directly. Like for example, here the obstacle is present. Okay, a robot will start checking from this. For example, here obstacle is present and here obstacle is reduced, will start directly in that direction. Robot again start direct in that direction, and check where the obstacle is there. Again, when obstacles are not present, start sweeping and then follow the path. Basically, human being also almost done does the operation in the same way. Potential field methods, we check where the obstacle is not there, we follow that. Again, once you reach to that particular point, then we'll check where the next obstacle is there. Likewise, this is potential field methods, which was proposed in 1986 by Khatib, and now many research papers are now available on IEEE's Explorer also, where we can get more idea Detail modified ideas are there. Potential field is a common idea. Under that, again, hundreds of different ideas are kept, and the accurate algorithms are now available in robotics to perform the path following of a point robot. Now, okay, this is how the path following methods are used in the robots. Now let's go with the another different idea of the robotics. Is called as a mobile robot. What do you mean by mobile robot? So mobile robot is a robot that is capable of moving in the surrounding, that is locomotion. Anywhere can just move it. It is used to usually considered to be the subfield of robotic and information engineering. Okay, capable of moving, just like mobile means without any physical connectivity. We just have ability to take that device anywhere. That is called as a mobile. So we call it a mobile phone. So phone which is not having any physical connectivity, we can move it anywhere, but it is having the connectivity by a wireless network. Okay. So mobile robot is also of that kind. It is not directly having connectivity. And today, many mobile that we use that are available, they are mobile robots. Mobile robots. So like spying robot is an example of a mobile robot capable of movement in a given environment. We just require a connectivity, wireless connectivity, and through wireless connectivity, they will get communicated. They will get communicated through they administered through the wireless networks there. Okay, so they are also having capability to move around their environment and are not fixed in one physical location. Okay, they are called as autonomous robot, MVR robot, that is autonomous mobile robots. Autonomous means completely controlled by themselves. Okay, they are capable of navigating an uncontrolled environment without the need of physical or electromechanical guidance devices. Okay, electromechanical guidance device, without that they are not required. So they will check that. So they are also embedded with GPS application. Even they are having some sensors inside that. With the help of that sensor, mobile robot will move in any direction. So as if you consider the drones, so drones is also one of the application of the mobile robot. Even they are controlled also. Now today drones are of two categories. We can control them by a centralized device, or we can have autonomous drones. Autonomous drones are having ability. They are even connected with the sensor, so they will decide in which direction they have to move without any physical connectivity. Okay, so mobile robot will just perform the operation in the same way. They don't require any kind of physical connectivity. That's why they are called as the mobile robots. Now, mobile robots are now classified in different categories. In moment, in which that they, the two categories are there. First is movement in that they call us, and second is the hardware which is used to create the mobile robots here. The first, land or home robots. They are referred as unmanned ground vehicle, that is UGV in general. Okay, home robots. Domestic robots are also coming under this particular category there. They are most commonly wheeled or tracked, but also include legs robot with two or more legs. Okay, legs are also there, like humanoid or resembling the animals or the insects. Now, basically, the robots which are the coming under this spy robot, they are coming under this particular category, UGVs, unmanned ground vehicle. Okay. The second category is delivery and transportation robot that can move material and supplies through the work environment. Okay, deliveries. So most of the time, when in any company environment, industry, so they have to move the particular instrument or move the any particular manufacturing unit from one place to another place. So that robots are required. The robots are again following the point path algorithms. With the help of that, they will travel through the path and will take anything from one place to another place. Okay. The second is UAV, that is aerial robots, which are referred as unmanned aerial vehicles, which is now part of the drones. Okay. No man is present. They will be traveling through the air. Will start from one source to another destination. Again, one advantage is in the air that obstacle possibility is very less in the air. Obstacle will be there from the birds or in any other kind of robot is there in the form of obstacle, that is also there. So algorithm has to take care of it. So in that particular robot, they will travel through the air. Next is underwater robots, which are usually called autonomous underwater vehicle, AUV, underwater vehicles. So when the robot is having the mechanism application to work underwater, they will be used. So today, for shooting any kind of thing under robot, okay, for capturing in the motion pictures. So that time this kind of robots plays very important role to go through that. Or underwater exploration is also done with the help of this kind of the robots. And the last is polar robots designed to navigate icy, okay, crevasse filled environment, icy environment. So okay, so they are actually designed it like that. So they will travel through the icy environments, so that again just like aerial or like underwater we are having icy robots. So exploration in the icy environment is done by this kind of the robots here. So they will not have any effect of the surrounding environment on their physical structure or the decision making abilities there. So these are the robots which are the environment in that they work. Accordingly, the classification of mobile robot is done. Now, according to the hardware which is present there in the mobile robot, again there are multiple kind like legged robot, humanoid, which are human-like legs, or animal-like legs are there. Maybe many different innovations are done now. Today, some robots which are created like dogs, which are created like cats, now they are available. They are also coming under legged robots. They are having ability to use their legs and move from one place to another place. That is legged robot. Next is wheeled robot. Okay, now wheeled robot also one picture I have shown. They contain the wheels, and with the help of movement of wheels, they will travel from one place to another place. Another is track. Track is very widely used again. Already some tracks means not exactly the railway kind of tracks. Just the colored lines are given. Okay, colored lines, and robot is having ability to follow that color lines. Okay, the way that color is there, he will follow that particular path of the colors. Okay, and will reach to the destination finally. That is what the tracks are there. Means according to the device that they are moved, they will have a leg, they will have wheel, or they will have a track. So the movement of the particular robot is possible from one place to the another place. So in this way, the mobile robots are classified. Now, what hardware they are connected with? What kind of hardware that they are having to control or to connect? Let's see some of the hardware which I mentioned over here. A simple architecture of a mobile robot is shown in this diagram. Mobile robot hardware. So let's take one application like, see this one. This is a robot. This one. This robot is there, which robot is controlled by Wi-Fi connectivity. Okay, and it also contains the microprocessor present inside it. Without that, controlling is not possible. Microprocessor, microcontroller will be present over there, and it's moving according to the movement of the wheels. Okay, the wheel will be controlled by the program, or will be controlled by a device, like it contains an antenna communication with this. It's a remote control. By that you control the movement of the respective robot here. Okay, but what are the things which internally it contains? Okay, what hardware that is required to create a mobile robot, okay, which is enlisted, which is shown as the architecture of this particular diagram here. Now let's see. So we have the mobile robot A. Okay, we'll just go step by step. The A part which is shown over here. Okay, and now to communicate the robot, to control that robot from the human being, we will be having a B part, which is called as the device which is operated, which is controlled, which is operated with the help of a remote machine with pulse width modulation technique, that is PWM technique. Okay, which will be controlled connected to that. PWM is the method by which the analog signal generation is possible. Okay, pulse width modulation technique will be used here. Okay, then we are having the devices here. Check it out. The devices which are the networking devices, and with the help of these networking devices, we will have the network connectivity to your mobile robot here. Okay, like this. It contains some USB ports, and through that USB ports, many different kind of devices can be connected. Many different kind of devices can be connected. For example, I want to connect my voice sensors, voice input, or microphones, or I want to connect cameras to them. So all that devices we can connect with the help of the respective cameras, and that we can fit on the particular robot there. okay, on the robot, and that device will be fetching the Wi-Fi signal so that connectivity from external devices are possible to it. Okay, this device which are shown over here, they'll all that we can fit onto it, and finally we'll be having a base station where all this Wi-Fi is actually created. Even we can have your mobile hotspot also to connect that, remember it, or we can use your Wi-Fi router also where this mobile all these things are connected. So we'll you should have a network. With that network, connectivity of all the devices are possible. Now here on that we'll be having few more things like the see, this is what your ultrasonic distance sensors are there. Multiple distance sensors, for example, I'm putting distance sensors on around of this particular robot, on one on the north, one on south, another on west and east, okay, four, or one is on top also, to check obstacle, or to check the distance from the nearest element, nearest obstacle present over there. For that purpose, these distance sensors are used, and it is controlled by one hardware. That may be a microprocessor based hardware or a microcontroller based hardware. The diagram which is shown over here, it is the Arduino. Okay, Arduino microcontroller chip is shown over here, which we can put onto it, and with the help of this Arduino, the programming of the sensors, means input and output from the sensors, will be controlled. Remember, so in this way it will be using, and to the particular device, okay, or particular mobile robot, we can have the serial communication device, like serial receiving and transmitting device also, which is shown over here in D. With the help of that, the communication of the data to and fro that device is possible in the serial fashion. Okay, that's part of D shown over here in serial transmission of data, receival of the data. So communication with the robot is possible in full duplex fashion. Full duplex. So one is transferring, used for transferring the data, another is for the receiving the data. Okay, and one more thing, if I don't want if I want the Ethernet connectivity, just like that, check it, G, Ethernet connectivity. Ethernet connectivity means your actual network, physical network your laptop is having or desktop is having. That physical network connectivity is also present, and with the help of that physical network can be connected if Wi-Fi is not required, or if you require the support of both kind of the network. I want Wi-Fi also and Ethernet also, so you can make use of that particular device. So connectivity around any point of view is presented, is given to the mobile robot. So controlling it will become easy, and even programming it and changing the program within it is also possible for us to do. So this is how the mobile hardware, mobile robot hardware, robotic hardware is present. Maybe we can have a few things extra also. Even we can remove few things from that mobile hardware also. It's possible. Okay. Now let's come with the mobile sensors which are used in the robotics. Oh, six sensors we have shown over here. Six means one category itself, that is ultrasonic distance sensors. Along with that, many more robotic sensors are present. They are used to perform some specific operations onto it. Like robotic sensors are used to estimate robots' condition and environment. See, a human being can understand the things very easily. We will know, or we actually knows the senses. I can sense a color. I can sense the speed. I can sense the obstacle. I can sense the distance. I can sense the weight. I can sense energy, fire, okay, water, anything, or even smoke also. But how your robot will sense it? How the robot will know that this kind of things entity is present here? So that entity means human understandable entity is converted into robot understandable entity with the help of the sensors. Okay, so that is what robotic condition environment. If robot has to sense something, it has to use an electrical equipment basically to convert that signals, analog signal, into the computer understandable signal. That is done with the help of the sensor. These signals are passed to controller to enable the appropriate behavior. So which behavior you have to sense, that depends upon the type of the sensors used. Sensors are robot are based on the functions of human sensory organs. Yes, we have five senses. But five senses, we can recognize multiple things. Remember, multiple things. In eyes itself, we can recognize multiple things. Like we can sense a distance. Okay, we can check the color. Okay, we can check what's happening there, or we can check the obstacles also. with the help of eyes itself. So, likewise, every sensory organ contains their own ability. That abilities are converted in the computer format by senses. So, robot require extensive information about the environment in order to function it effectively. Check this out. Few of the sensors I have just shown. So, anyone that we can use there. If you are work with Internet of Things, IoT application design, so you might be knowing these kind of sensors are present. Similar sensors we can use in robotics also. Robotics does not require special sensor. Robot can be created by using your Arduino microcontroller also or the Raspberry Pi microprocessor also. Okay. A separate device is not required for that. That's why sensors are common. They will be operated with the help of all the electronic equipments there. Now, what are the type of sensors that we are present, we are available with? So, two categories are there. First category, we can have passive or active sensors, and second is contact and non-contact sensors, visual, non-visual kind of sensors there. Okay. So, active versus passive sensors. Active, they emit energy in the environment. They emit the energy in the environment. They are actually more robust, healthy, and less efficient. But okay, active sensors. Passive sensor is they receive the energy from the environment, just inverse of it. Energy from the environment, less intuitive, but depends on the environment, like light for the camera. Passive, they require the energy basically. Okay, stereo vision versus the range finder. I'll show some of the examples which sensors are used nowadays in the robotics here. This is the first category classification idea, active versus passive. And second idea is contact versus non-contact. So in order to sense something, it has to connect to it or not. Okay, I want to check whether the there is a rainy situation, means rain is falling. Okay, so that water drops should be present, that you put onto the sensor, then you will identify that the rain is there. On fire sensor, it's not required to have fire touch there. This is non-contact sensor. Okay, so contact and non-contact, two kind of sensors. Even fingerprint sensor, contact sensor. Without that, fingerprint can't be identified. But distance sensor is a non-contact sensor. It should not touch the particular sensor, so distance can be found. That is how contact and non-contact sensors are there. Now, let's see. Let's enlist all, and we'll go with 4 5 different sensors which are now regularly used in the robotics. Okay, so proprioceptive sensors which monitor the state of robot, that is called as proprioceptive sensors. Okay, monitor the state of the robot, like IMU, which contains accelerometer and gyroscopes. Okay, wheel encoders, Doppler radar, state of the robot, that can be found with the help of the proprioceptive. Just inverse to that, we have exteroceptive sensors, which monitor the environment. Okay, they first monitor the condition of robot and second monitor the environmental conditions there, like cameras. Okay, laser scanner, radar, sonar, tactile. They are coming under the exteroceptive sensors. Okay, so we'll see both. We're having IME also, we're having sonar also, radar also. Now, what characteristics the sensors are having? All sensors are characterized by various properties that describe their capabilities also. The first is sensitivity. How sensitive is that? The ratio of change of input to the change of output is called a sensitivity. Okay, sensitivity. So it should reach towards 1. Remember, towards 1, sensitive. Then linearity. Okay, linearity, the constancy of input with output, means how constant input is that, accordingly how constant output is that. That constantness is checked with the help of linearity. Okay, and third is the range measurement or dynamic range, difference between the minimum value and maximum value, which the it can identify. For example, temperature sensor, general minimum value 4 degree, maximum value 60 degree. That's the range. Or distance sensor, like for example, if I consider ultrasonic sensor, HCSR04 is the number for that. That sensor's minimum range is 2 centimeter, maximum range is 400 centimeters. That can check range, dynamic. So they are also containing some range. There is no any sensor which is universal and everything it can check. Not possible. Okay. So these are the characteristics that sensors are containing. So based on the characteristics, choosing of sensor is completely depends. Means you have to choose a sensor for operation. So we have to look for the respective characteristics of them, and based on that, the sensors can be chosen to get operated in the mobile devices. Okay. Now, response time, the time required to change in input to cause the change in the output. Okay. As soon as I change the input, it should change the output. So what is the response time that is present in that? Then accuracy. Obviously, the difference between the measured value and the actual value. Okay, actual temperature is 28 degree, and your sensor is measuring 26 degrees. 2% changes are there. Okay, accuracy is not good again. So it should have 0.5, 0.4, something like difference there. Repeatability, the difference between repeated measures. Okay, if I measure temperature today, again after 1 second, 2 second, 3 second, if it is having a rapid changes there, no, not a good sensor. Resolution, smallest observable increment. Smallest observable increment means you might be knowing fine grain and coarse grain. Okay, fine grain is the resolution. Okay, how means temperature it captures. For example, temperature sensor, whether it is directly 26, 29, 30, 40, or 26.1, 26.2, 26.3, like that. That is smallest observable increment. Zero point 0.1 or 1. Bandwidth, the result of high resolution or cycle time. That is called as the bandwidth, highest resolution for that. So these are the characteristics that the sensor actually carries, and accordingly that the sensors will be taken in consideration for using in the robotic application. Three types of the sensors: tactile sensors, close range proximity, angular position, infrared, sonar, laser, radar, compass, force, GPS, vision. Not limited to that, 150 different sensors are present in actual robotics. Okay, so maybe they are used for different kind of applications, but 150 sensors are there. Out of that, few I'll just show you. Starting with the tactile sensor. First, tactile sensors. Now there are many different technologies are present to create a tactile sensors. Tactile sensors, tactile feelers, generally they're called as antennas. Often some come from the metal wire, passes through a wire loop, can active, powered, mechanically search the surfaces. Check this out, shown over here. Mechanically search the surfaces. That is tactile feeler. And along with that, we are having one more thing called as tactile bumpers. They contain solid bars or plate on some form of the contact switch. The mirror reflecting beam, pressure bladder, or wire loops like that. Okay, so pressure sensitive rubber with scanning array are used here in the tactile sensors, and with the help of these tactile sensors, it's possible to check the location of the respective uh, robot, okay, on that particular point. So here like that we can have the tactile sensors, okay, presented like in this way. So it contains the height of 4.2 millimeter and width of 7.5 millimeters. Okay, pressure sensitive rubbers for scanning the array, they are possible. This is the last line of defense from the robots are possible. So tactile sensors basically uses different kind of technologies like contact closure, magnetic elements, or piezoelectric effect also, that is also used or employed to create the tactile sensors. Now, a second kind of sensors are the proximity sensors. Now, tactile sensors are actually allowing the obstacle detection only, obstacle detection. Just like that, we're having a proximity sensors also. Proximity sensors needed for obstacle avoidance. Okay, so you just check that whether any obstacle present or not. Tactile sensor why plays very important role, because obstacles are very important part of robotic traversing. We have seen the algorithms, and in that algorithm, your robot program should be capable of identifying the obstacle present in the path. That's why it's required there. So several technologies can detect the presence of particular field without mechanical contact, like magnetic reed switches. Okay, that's what we require. So many things are present inside it. I'll not go into technical detail for that, but remember why tactile sensors are actually used. Now, under that, we are having Hall effect sensor. Means there's a uh, electrical effect. If you have heard about it, Hall effect, which is used here. in generation or in using this particular sensor, small voltage generated across a conductor carrying the current that will be used. And along with that, we are having inductive sensors also. There are capacitive sensors also there. Inductive sensors can detect presence of metallic object. Okay, metallic object is present there or not. On capacitive sensor also there. Capacitive sensor detect metallic or dielectric materials which is present. So detection of that particular thing, particular material is identified with the help of the proximity sensor, and we can avoid it. Means what kind of thing is present in front of the sensors that can detect and we can avoid by this particular mechanism. Okay, so let's like that we are having one more sensor called an infrared sensor. Okay, infrared sensors are probably the simplest type of non-contact sensors. So they contain the infrared rays. Okay, infrared rays are there used in the robotics to avoid the obstacle image. So they emits the light. See, if you know the see this one, yeah, my mouse. So if it is visible to you, so we just check it. That mouse is containing IR rays at the base of it. Today, all these optical mouse that we use, they contain the IR rays, and that IR rays, that infrared lights are emitted from the source, and that will get reflected again back. And based on that, you check that how much changes are present in it. Okay, that is IR sensor actually does. Infrareds are emitted and infrareds are detected, emitted and detected, and with the help of that, you check the obstacle or you check the deviation, you check the changes in front of the thing which is shown over there. Remember, so to differentiate the emitted IR from the ambient IR, the signal is modulated with low frequency like 100 hertz, and they detect the reflections of nearby surfaces with the help of IR sensors, infrared sensors. Okay, so in certain environment, like careful calibration is required. Calibration means accuracy should be perfectly monitored. They can be used for measuring distance of the object also. Okay, remember, infrared sensors like this. Check this. So one in this sensor, one is the emitter and second is detector. Okay, we just emit the light with object is present, will get reflected back and detected. So something like that. One is reflective, one is sending the signal, and second is receiving the signal. Sending and receiving. Okay, so sending and receiving will be done by using IR sensor here, and based on that you check the distance. So this angle generated here will check the distance, at what distance the obstacle is present. Okay, and when the obstacle is present, that can be detected by the robot, and then we can change the direction accordingly. That is the use of infrared sensors. Okay, some problems are there. If IR signal detected, it is safe to assume that object is present. Okay, however, the absence of reflected does not mean that the object is present. No object is present, because some possibilities are there, like the range is very short, like 50 to 100 centimeter range is there. If it is going above that, then it is not possible to detect it. Remember, or somewhere like in black color. So black color, it will not have reflection of the light. That is the main disadvantage of using IR sensors. Black color. So if you have done that IR sensors by using the IoT application, there also same things are there. IR sensor is not having good accuracy on the black color. That's why it's one of the problem that IR sensor contains. Let's go for the sonar sensor. Okay, might be heard about this particular concept, sonar, robot sonars. In the same way that used by the bats, I just told about it. Ultrasonic sound is sent by the sonar sensor. Sound, ultrasonic sound, which contains very small wavelength. Okay, and when this is sent, it will get reflected again. The sound will get reflected, will identify the distance again with the help of the sonar sensors. But they use the concept or mechanism of the sound. Okay, emit a chirp for 1.2 millisecond. A short, powerful pulse of range of frequency of sound, which is called as a chirp, which will be sent. Its reflection of nearby surface detected. As the speed of the sound in air is 330 meter per second square. The distance to object can be computed from the elapsed time between the chirp and the echo. Okay, so they are generally used in the ultrasonic sensors. So this method is identified by that. We just send the ultrasonic sound. Once get reflected, will be identified, and we know the speed of this sound in the air also. By using that mechanism, distance can be calculated. Distance can be calculated. It's called as a sonar sensors. Okay, they used to perform the similar kind of operation that IR rays does, but the mechanism that they use is the ultrasonic sound. There they are using IR rays, here they are using the ultrasonic sound, sonar sensors. Now, the next one is laser range finders. Laser range finders. Laser range finders commonly used to measure the distance, velocity, and acceleration of object. Distance, velocity, and the acceleration of the object. They are also known as the laser radar or lidar. The operating principle is just same as sonar, but they should give the short pulse laser light emission, and the time elapsed between the emission and detection used to detect the distance using the speed of the light. So due to the shorter wavelength of laser, the chance of specular reflection is much less. Like we are having accuracy of 16 to 50 millimeter for 100 meters. In 100 meters, we'll have a deviation of 16 to 50 millimeters. And generally, 1D beam is usually swept to give a 2D planar beam. Remember. And one more disadvantage that range finders contains, it may not detect transparent surfaces like glass or completely dark object. Okay, that's also not possible to detect with the help of the laser range finders. In general, ideal environments only laser range finders will be used. So you can just emit a laser ray and get the reflection back. Based on that, just check how exactly it's what the distance that's present from the current position toward the next obstacle or next place which is present over there. Okay, then radar. So just like general use of radar, here radar sensors can be used. Radar usually uses electromagnetic energy in 1 to 12.5 gigahertz frequency range. Okay, it may pulse timeout, flight methodology for sonar and lidar, but may also be used for other methods. Like they are used to check the continuous wave phase detection. Means I'm getting the data continuous format or not. Okay, signal detections, continuous wave phase detection, as well as they can be used for continuous wave frequency modulations also. The continuous wave system make use of a Doppler effect to measure the relative velocity of the target. Relative velocity means something is moving. For example, something is moving in front of you, and I want to identify the velocity of it. So that velocity can be found with the help of the waves that we are firing from the radar sensors. Radar sensor will fire the waves onto it and will check the velocity, in what velocity the particular element is moving. So we can check that at what particular time it will reach towards me. Okay, and before that you have to perform some actions. That is what applications of radar. Okay, so maybe few radars, few like many different satellites are also having radar sensors implemented on that. They will check their range is very high, but in case of general basic robotics, we don't require this highest range. So velocity of a moving object in front of you can be identified with the help of the radar, where the electromagnetic energy from 1 to 12.5 gigahertz frequency range is generated, and with the help of microwave energy, we will be identifying the object which is moving in front of you. So most of them will be unaffected by the fog, rain, dust, haze, and smoke. Remember, whatever is in rain also, fog also present, dust is present, haze is present, smoke is present. Then also, radar will perform the perfect operation of identification of the moving vehicle towards you. Okay. Next is the gyroscope sensor. Gyroscope sensors is a spinning wheel actually, with the most of its mass centralized to outer periphery. Okay, the gyro is used to maintain the orientation or to measure the rate or direction of rotation. See what exactly we have in mobile phone. We have that gyroscope. When you change your orientation, okay, when you change your orientation from the vertical orientation to the horizontal, so automatically the appearance of the application also changes in mobile. How the mobile phone knows the orientation is changed? So for that purpose, the gyroscope is used. Okay, it is used to maintain the orientation or to measure the rate and direction of rotation. In what direction is rotating? For example, by sticking to particular obstacle, the robot is completely changed. It is rotated direction completely, and to check that what is the current position of the robot is, that gyroscope can be used for their operations. Okay, even we can have optical gyroscope also, which does not contain any moving parts in that. This can be used in the space probes to maintain the orientation. to maintain it. Okay, just check that the robot is now completely flat to the horizontal orientation and its inverse direction. So this can be identified by using a gyroscope. Gyroscope will change the orientation, and after that we will fire some command. We will execute some program to keep your robot in the perfect direction. Okay, that is the use of the gyroscope. Gyroscope is used for that, and just connected to that, we are having the inertial sensors. Inertial sensors are based on the inertia and relative measuring principles. Okay. These range from micro electromechanical system, that is MEMS, that we call MEMS sensors. Okay. Inertial sensors measuring only few millimeter up to ring laser gyroscope that are high precision devices the size of up to 50 centimeters. With this note, we'll briefly summarize this. Okay, what exactly the sensors will perform? Autonomous navigation of unmanned aircraft is possible by that. And size of this kind of the sensors are reduced very low will be there. These sensors are for aerial robotics typically come in the form of an inertial measurement unit that is called as IMU. Okay, in that IMU, which consists of accelerometer, where acceleration is identified, they contain the gyroscope, where the orientation is identified, and contain the magnetometers also, which identify the effect of magnetism in surrounding. Okay, subsequently, that's what the accelerometer and gyroscope will be used in the unmanned aviations very regularly. So IMU, which is inertial measurement unit, which is containing that inertial sensors, their MEMS sensor, generally we call MEMS, MEMS sensors, they are used. So their size is very small, and all they are integrated in a small chip, and that chip we call as inertial measurement unit. In short, we call as IMU, used with these three things: accelerometer, gyroscope, and the magnetometers, which are present inside the inertial sensors. Now look at that MEMS sensors. For example, I want to check the activities of human beings. So that sensors, small sensors, will be put at different point of joints, and as you move your body, sensors will check that which part of the body is moving. See this one of the example of inertial sensors, the MEMS sensors, which we are using at different point here. See this. Here the joint sensors, centers are there, joints, where the joints are there, where the center of masses are present. See, body is moving to point. Check that. And as you move your body, so that identification will be done, and we can identify what exactly happening in front. Okay. Today, many games are also containing these sensors connected, and with the help of that sensors, we will identify what action we are doing on that human body, that we can detect with the help of the inertial sensors. So IMU will be having something like that. See, this is IMU, which will put at different positions like that, and then the complete human body identification of movement is done. So same cases happened with the robotics also. Okay, fine. So let's control. Okay, before that, let's have a small break of 2-3 minutes. I'll just wait for that 2-3 minutes, and we will continue. It's continuously going on. So we'll have a break of 2-3 minutes on this, and then we'll continue.